Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into the fascinating world of, well, a true enigma, Jack Dorsey. He's often called the silent architect of modern connection and commerce. A quiet, pretty reserved figure who, despite, keeping a low profile, built not one, but two multi-billion-dollar companies that have just profoundly reshaped our daily lives.
It is remarkable, isn't it, how much impact he's had, yet his public persona is still so understated. He genuinely created one company that fundamentally changed how we share ideas, Twitter, and another that completely redefined how we handle money with Square, now Block. It's an incredible dual legacy.
Precisely. And this isn't just going to be a dry history lesson, folks. We're really embarking on a journey here. Think feuds, oustings, incredible comebacks, and a vision for the future that, well, some might call radical, and it's certainly risky.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the surprising facts from all the sources we've dug into. Think of this as your shortcut to getting really well informed about Dorsey's story, his unique mindset, and its enduring significance. You're about to understand the man behind the platforms you probably use every single day.
Right, let's unpack this. Jack Dorsey's story, it starts back in 1976. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri. And from an early age, apparently he was a quiet kid, not really into the typical childhood stuff. His focus was different maps, dispatch systems.
Yeah, that dispatch system fascination is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fascinating to trace the origin back there to his teenage years. What was it about those short bursts of information that really grabbed him? And how did that, seemingly niche interest eventually point towards Twitter?
Well, he didn't just hear noise, you see. He instinctively recognized an underlying structure in how taxi and delivery services were communicating over radio waves. To him, it wasn't just chatter. It was, as he apparently saw it, a pattern waiting to be digitized.
Wow.
That's a rare kind of insight, And it really ties into his core philosophy, which he stated himself. He said, "I've always been drawn to simplicity, to distilling complex things into something elegant." And this pursuit of elegance and simplicity, it really defines his entire career path. He went to the University of Missouri-Rolla, then transferred to NYU.
That didn't finish right.
Exactly. Dropped out just one semester short of graduating. He just wanted to pursue these programming ideas he had.
So, 1999, Dorsey moves to Oakland, starts a company dispatching couriers and taxis using the web. You said it wasn't a massive hit, but how did that earlier venture sort of lay the groundwork for what came next?
Well, it clearly planted the seed for something bitter, as one source put it. Then you fast forward to 2006, and he's working at this podcasting company, Odeo. He's there with Biz Stone, Evan Williams, Noah Glass, and they were kind of casting about, looking for a new direction.
Right, and this is the moment, the legendary what's happening idea. How quickly did that concept, sharing short status updates, actually go from just a pitch to a working prototype? Was it, immediate?
It was an absolute sprint. They built a prototype, it was called Tobori TR back then, in just 2 weeks, which of course later became Twitter. And his first tweet, so simple, but now it's legendary, "Just setting up my Twitter TR."
And then boom, the platform's popularity just exploded, didn't it? Especially at South by Southwest in 2007. It quickly became the place for breaking news, live conversation. It pulled in celebrities, journalists, politicians, everyone. Dorsey, only 30 years old, becomes CEO. But with that super rapid success came some unexpected internal tensions. What were the concerns bubbling up that led to him being, quietly removed as CEO in 2008?
Yeah, the board started to worry. Concerns about his perceived lack of management experience, for one. And frankly, his leadership style, described as calm, almost detached, it seemed to clash with the, fast-moving, chaotic vibe of a startup that was just on fire. So he remained chairman, but Twitter kept growing just without him actually running the show day to day.
It's so rare, though, for a founder to get a really significant second act, especially after being pushed out of their own company like that. What made Jack Dorsey different? How did Square, his next big thing, even come about?
It really speaks to a deep resilience, I think. So in 2009, Dorsey co-founds Square with Jim McKelvey. And the origin story is fantastic. It's very practical. McKelvey is a glass artist, and he literally lost a sale because he couldn't accept credit cards. That real-world problem sparked the whole idea.
Ah, right. And that led to that tiny, now iconic white card reader.
Yeah.
The one that plugged right into a smartphone. Suddenly, anyone could process payments. It just took off, as you said, empowering millions of small businesses that couldn't easily take cards before. That's another perfect example of him creating this elegant, simple solution for a really complex problem.
Indeed. And Square went public in 2015, Later, it rebranded to Block as it expanded way beyond just the card reader. You've got Cash App, major investments in Bitcoin, broader blockchain projects. So this consistency, simplifying complex systems, whether it's communication or finance, it's such a clear through line in his career.
Okay, so as if building one multi-billion-dollar company wasn't enough, 2015 rolls around, and Twitter's growth had kind of stalled out. And guess who the board turns back to? Jack Dorsey. Now, he's a more seasoned leader, right, thanks to his experience running Square, so he becomes CEO of Twitter again. But here's the kicker, the really unprecedented twist. He was still running Square at the same time. What was the big challenge there? What was the reaction like in Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
Because that sounds impossible.
Oh, it was truly unprecedented. And yeah, critics were highly skeptical. People were saying, look, it's impossible to effectively run two massive, demanding companies like that simultaneously. But Dorsey, he insisted he could balance both. He famously split his time mornings at Twitter, afternoons at Square.
Wow.
It was a testament to his conviction, I guess, but also, yeah, a source of constant scrutiny.
And his second time leading Twitter was hardly smooth sailing, was it? The platform was facing intense criticism, harassment, misinformation, growing political polarization. It was right in the middle of huge global events like the Arab Spring, the 2016 U.S. election, often controversially. How did his thinking on content moderation evolve during all that pressure?
Well, Dorsey initially defended free speech very robustly, but over time, under immense pressure, he did eventually introduce stronger content moderation policies. Probably the most controversial decision of that second tenure was undoubtedly banning former U.S. President Donald Trump after the January 6th Capitol riot. And that decision, I mean, it split public reaction right down the middle. Some praised it as necessary, others saw it clearly as censorship.
Right. And while he's juggling all this chaos at Twitter, Dorsey becomes increasingly passionate about something totally different, Bitcoin. What was his vision for it? How did it sort of connect back to his earlier work in simplifying systems?
He saw Bitcoin as, and this is a direct quote, the native currency of the internet. He envisioned it as decentralized, borderless, and crucially, beyond the control of governments. So it's another move towards decentralizing power, isn't it? Much like Twitter decentralized information sharing, in a way, and Square decentralized payment processing for small players, Block, his company, made really significant investments in Bitcoin development, integrating it into Cash App, funding open source projects.
And this conviction, this passion, it led to his big move in 2021. He steps down from Twitter completely. Why? To focus solely on Block and pushing Bitcoin adoption forward. He even reinforced it with that powerful statement, the internet needs a currency, and I believe Bitcoin is that currency. That's a huge bet, stepping away from a platform like Twitter to chase that vision.
It really is. And beyond his corporate roles, Jack Dorsey's personal lifestyle is, well, remarkably unconventional. We hear about long periods of fasting, daily meditation, often traveling quietly, not for big photo ops, but to meet with small business owners or developers around the world. He avoids the flashy offices, the celebrity parties.
Yeah, he's clearly not driven by the usual stuff, the typical trappings of wealth and fame. Instead, the sources say he's obsessed with systems, communication systems, payment systems, and how technology can decentralize power. What does that really tell us about what drives him deep down?
It reveals the singular focus, almost. Yeah, almost monastic in its dedication. He's not chasing status. He's chasing a very specific vision of how the world could be organized, technologically speaking.
So let's distill this down for you, the listener. What are the truly profound takeaways from Jack Dorsey's journey? Let's start with that uncanny ability he has, spotting patterns in the everyday world. What can we learn from that?
Well, what's truly remarkable, I think, is how Dorsey didn't just see the noise of those dispatch systems back then. He instinctively saw the underlying structure, those core bursts of information. He stripped away all the complexity, seeing the simplest, most essential unit. And that's a lesson for anyone trying to innovate, isn't it? Look past the obvious, find the fundamental elements at play.
All right, find the core signal. And building on that, his knack for creating these incredibly simple tools for really complex problems. You think of the elegance of the 140-character tweet or that tiny little Square reader. What was his secret sauce there?
I think his secret, if you can call it that, was that deep-seated obsession with simplicity and elegance we talked about. He always sought to distill things down, focusing relentlessly on the user's need, not necessarily the complex tech humming underneath. And that approach, it makes powerful tools accessible to literally everyone, which is incredibly difficult to actually pull off.
He also showed, especially that second time at Twitter, incredible composure under just immense public pressure. How did that calm, maybe even detached demeanor actually serve him when navigating all that chaos?
Well, in an environment as chaotic as a rapidly growing social media giant, especially one facing such intense criticism, his calm style likely allowed him to stay strategic. He wasn't easily swayed by the day-to-day emotional storms, which can be a double-edged sword sometimes, but ultimately it probably allowed him to make those difficult, often unpopular long-term decisions.
Okay, and finally, that courage. The courage to make these huge long-term bets, even when it means stepping away from short-term gains or what everyone else expects, like he did with Bitcoin. What does that tell us about his whole approach to business and maybe even life?
It speaks to deep, deep conviction. He's clearly not afraid to walk away from something really successful like Twitter for what he genuinely believes is a better, more fundamental thing, even if it's unproven or controversial. And of course, just the sheer achievement of building two multi-billion-dollar companies in completely different industries, communication and finance, that's almost unheard of. It just highlights his versatility and that singular, simplifying vision.
It's true. Jack Dorsey doesn't say much, often. But when he builds something, the whole world really does start talking. From 140 characters that changed global conversation to global payments that empowered millions, his work has truly redefined how we connect, how we share, and how we pay.
Yeah, and maybe this is the final thought to leave you with. Given that track record, that history of seeing patterns and building foundational tools, what might it actually mean if his current big bet, his vision for Bitcoin, truly becomes the native currency of the internet? How could that reshape the digital landscape all over again? Something to think about.